I can't hide behind that, but we have, and with big players that are not involved, and we need to get those back as soon as we possibly can.
You got off to the worst possible start, didn't you? You come on a long away trip to be a goal down after 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, listen, you come to Sunderland, you have to keep the crowd quiet, and the way of doing that is keeping things tight for 20 minutes or so, and unfortunately we gave a poor goal away. We go in 2-0 behind, and I thought we'd played some half-decent stuff in the first half, but the goalie hasn't made enough saves. So second half he's made a couple of saves, but we're chasing the game and we lose a third goal.
And you talked a little bit about the options up your sleeve. You must have been looking at the bench thinking, Premier League football, do you feel you've got enough resources at your disposal at the moment with all these injuries that you've been troubled with?
Well, I think that's the answer to the question. And we've got young boys coming off the bench. We had a lot of defenders on there as well, so we didn't really have the options that we could to change it. Dominic Sammy was going to be a good young player, so we probably have to wait for him. But he's made his debut today, so we're pleased for him.
We were surprised that Danny Guthrie and Jason Roberts are both missing, injuries presumably.
Jason Roberts was injured. Hal Canoe was injured. Danny Guthrie had decided that his head wasn't right to travel yesterday.
In what sense?
In that sense, simple as that.
Well, the actual journey, or the playing, or the...
Well, I think you'd have to ask Danny Guthrie that.
See, you're not sure, but it just sort of seems a surprise at such a crunch stage of the season for a senior player to be missing.
Well, it's not helpful. We need to have all our players going in the same direction. We've done that over a period of time at Reading. We've always done that, and that's really, really important to me. And that's a question that you'd have to ask to Danny, because he was definitely going to be involved tonight.
But as a professional, surely you just say no, it's your job.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. So why didn't that happen?
You'd have to ask Danny.
Yeah. So I imagine you never play for Reading again. What's the outcome of that?
Listen, this is probably not a conversation for now. I have to see where we are in the week. We have to wait and see what happens with that. He texted me to apologise last night, but it's an unfortunate situation, to say the least.
But yeah, and hugely disappointing, because obviously you put a lot of faith in him by bringing him to the club in the first place and giving him a good go at the start of the season.
Well, the thing I think that players have to realise, and obviously Danny doesn't know me very well, I bring players in because I want them to do well. Bring them in not because I want them to fail. I want players to do well. And I work really, really hard with the players, and over time, players get in the team, they're out of the team, but the most important thing for me is the group, the spirit, and that will always be the same. That will never change. The individual's ego, or whatever you want to call it, has to go out the window. That's why we've been successful over the last 3 years. That's why we've done so well over the last 3 years. This football club is in such a better place than it was 3 years ago, a better place than it was a year ago. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It's a struggle at the moment. We know where we're at, and we need everyone going in the same direction.
If you could just isolate the player, then actually there wouldn't be so much of a problem, would it? Because as you've rightly said, it's all about the spirit at Reading. It always has been. But the whole sort of that expression about one bad apple and the corrosive effect they could have on all the rest of the group. Are you confident that the rest of the group are a cohesive unit, despite one player obviously going out of line?
I'm completely confident in the group, completely confident in the spirit of the group. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. We have come up short tonight on the pitch, but what you have to do in a situation like this is you really find out about people in situations like that. I personally have found out about people in the last 2 months or so, which is good to know. I'm relishing the opportunity, the job. I'm not relishing the results. I'm not enjoying the results, and I'm just looking forward now.
And you must have been grateful. Sir John Madacey came out and absolutely adamant. It wasn't even a vote of confidence, because that suggests negativity. Absolutely adamant that you are the right man at the moment. That you had no qualms about doing that, lending that support. It must be nice to hear that.
Well, all I say is, where we've come from in a short space of time is absolutely incredible, and where we are now, and I think everyone would have taken where we are now and playing in this league. When we were 12th in the league at this time last season, we came from 20 points back. We are grafting really, really hard. I am absolutely positive in myself, in the staff, in the players. We need to get a few back. and we need our fans. You know, I'm sure some of the fans are going to be disillusioned with the results, and I understand that. But that's no different. You know, last season at times, some of the supporters weren't happy with some of the results, even some of the way we played when we were winning 1-0. That's how it is in football. I'm gutted for the fans that travel, because I want to go to them at the end of that game having won, and I've done that so many times, and it's embarrassing not so much embarrassing, but you want to win games for them. That's what we're in this business for.
Last one, Wally Downs and his future, because he's left West Ham. Obviously West Ham doing brilliantly, and obviously Wally Downs is an absolutely top man who's been associated with Reading in the past. Any chance that he might be on his way back to Medeski?
No, I text Wally today, and you know, it came out of the blue for Wally, so I don't want to speak on what happened now. I've no idea really. It's not my business. But no, he's a good bloke, Wally, and you know, I'm gutted for him.
But there's no connection yet. But in the future, could you ever see a way back for Wally at Reading? Perhaps a role for him in the coaching team?
No, I doubt it.
Okay, but you get on well with him anyway.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. So there we are, AD, and Danny Guthrie is an absolute disgrace.
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting listening to Brian there. It's interesting. I mean, the thing is, Tim, you haven't got to ask him the question. It's not your job to ask him the question.
Which question?
About Guthrie. It's for us to be told what's happening with Danny Guthrie, isn't it?
And well, he was more or less volunteering the information, was he, or do you feel he was a bit reluctant to come forward?
Well, it's obviously hush hush. You know, there's clearly. You know, stick my neck out and say there's been a fallout. You know, you can't get players. I totally agree. You can't get players coming up to a manager and saying, "My head's
I'm not having that. I'm not having that." Regardless of the spin on it, the point is Guthrie is an absolute disgrace.
I just said you can't have players coming up to a manager and saying your head's not right. Now that is a disgrace.
Yes, that's what I mean.
He can't be picking the side. But what I'm saying is, you know, Brian, I think he's got to tell us more what's going on.
Well, I bet you Brian didn't go on to say Danny Guthrie came to me yesterday and said, actually, you know what, my head's not quite right to play. There's 35 grand for this week.
Exactly.
Because I'm not quite up for it there, Brian, so I'll give you my wages back.
I'm not interested in all the sideshows and whether Brian's got control of them or not. I'm interested in Danny Guthrie. I mean, what sort of a sportsman, you know, any sort of sportsman at any level, if you're invited to play in a team sport, you say yes. There's a start point. That's my general motto in life. And beyond that, if you're being paid 35 grand a week and you're asked to play for your team, and you say no, and the team are playing in a 6-point relegation battle, and you haven't played much recently, and when you did you were poor earlier on in the season, and the manager's gone out on a limb to book you and get you here in the first place.
Agreed.
I cannot think of a more unsavoury incident from a Reading player in the last few years. That is, makes my blood boil.
Yeah, no, absolutely, spot on. You can't be doing that. But Mick, you've been a manager. You could still take Danny Guthrie.
Take him where?
You can still travel him tonight. You can still take him on the. You can still name him
to the local canal. Fill him up. Fill his boots up.
Couldn't you, Mick? You could still take him. You could still name him as a sub. If we refuse, then there's surely a 2-week fine.
Well, I think you wouldn't want him on your bus, Stady, though, would you?
That's the problem.
Yeah, because that's what I was getting with the interview, the sort of corrosive influence he might be with the other players. But, I mean, honestly, Adi, did you ever remember any incidents like this in your time? I mean, they do occasionally crop up, I know, but you rather hope that...
not in this situation, Tim. Not when you need bodies on the line.
You say that, actually. I mean, you think Ibrahim Sonko and Emma Faye back in the year that Reading got relegated, actually, 4 or 5 years ago, and they refused to play in a reserve team game. There's something similar then, wasn't there?
But now that it's come out, I'm sure that some of the players will have known what's happened. I'm sure some of the players will have known. I got a text from somebody this evening saying, are those players injured physically or mentally? So obviously there's a rumour going around that something's come out about Danny Guthrie saying that he's not. Well, I've got a text on my phone saying, is it physical or is it mental?
Mick, you know the situation at a football club. You can't keep anything quiet.
Of course you can't.
You'd like to. You can't keep.
Sorry, I don't get where we're going with this. He's been Brian McDermott's been completely open about this tonight. He's just given us 3 or 4 decent answers.
Oh, he has, but what I'm saying is some of the players will have known what's gone on.
Yeah.
Other players won't have known. They probably just found out that one of their teammates says, you know what, thanks all the best guys, but I'm not part of you.
Yeah, so that's going to have a pretty negative effect, you reckon?
Well, they should all be in it together, all pulling in one direction. You've got one chap saying, you know what it is, I'm a little bit disappointed I wasn't playing a couple of weeks ago. You know what, now I've been asked to play, I don't want to take a part in it.
Will Danny Guthrie play again for Reading while Brian McDermott's the manager?
Well, that's the question I asked him, wasn't it? And he said it's not the time to ask that now. I mean, I think
You know what I think?
You can't cut your nose off to spite your face. And if he's a good enough player and you're struggling enough, then you have to just swallow your pride and crack on, don't you?
Carlos Tevez.
Yeah, exactly. It's happened before, and players have been forgiven. It's basically how much you value them as a player. Mick, do you think he'll play again?
I hope not.
No, I hope not. But
Oh dear. We were just getting stuck into that one as well. We'll try and get Tim and Mick